Hello. I've never actually heard the applause so clearly. I got new headphones. I didn't realize that Mike put really nice applause at the end of that, clearly.
He's good, isn't he?
He's the best. So, let's start the show off with some honesty. Like I said, I'm getting new listeners every week. I usually prepare pretty well. I could prepare better, but for the most part, I've done these shows. I put thought in them during the week. But long story short, I kind of screwed the pooch, and I kind of got screwed by the pooch. It was a perfect storm of bad situations that have led me here to this moment where I am about to do an hour-long podcast without a guest and without a topic. And this is pretty much my worst nightmare come true. You know those dreams you had when you went to school and you were naked and everyone was laughing at you? That is a reality for me right now. This is my biggest fear. So please excuse me. I had a topic last week. We were talking about cyberbullying, and I had a doctor call in at the end, and we were talking about abuse and dealing with abuse, which is something that, I talk about every week. It's the central theme in the cult of Jake Pentland, which is dealing with your own baggage. And he seemed like a great caller, but when I asked Jeffrey to get his phone number, he hung up. So we never got his phone number. So the last you guys had heard, you probably were expecting him to call in. I put a blast out on Twitter, but he doesn't have a Twitter account, so I went for backup. I got Dr. Debbie Majid, who I emailed and stalked. I have been for over a year, to finally respond to me via email. And she's a brilliant doctor. I heard her first on Howard Stern. She's the one that gave the narcissism test to Howard and Robin and the crew. I don't know if anyone listened to that show. It was one of the funniest shows I've ever heard. Robin scored the highest, I believe, which is bad. And Dr. Debbie had said something very interesting on the show. She had said that narcissism in her experience comes from when a child has to take care emotionally of their parent, when it should be the other way around, which bells were going off in my head. What a great subject to talk about. And Howard, his show's obviously different than mine. He wanted to get right into the making fun of each other for narcissism, and he kind of changed the subject. So I've been looking for her for a year because I really want to hear more about that. So anyway, she finally agreed to do my show, but can't today. So then I was 2 doctors deep. Long story short, I then found this great article by Peggy Howell, who's a friend of the show, and I use that term loosely. She's the woman from NAFA, the National Association for the Acceptance of Fat Americans, or whatever, I can't remember. She had shut down a Disney exhibit, and I tried to get her on the show, but she's not happy with me. As you know, she hung up on me and will not respond. I then had a doctor who agrees with her, got him on Twitter to agree to do the show. Long story short, he's in an area with bad cell reception, so enough bitching. I just want to let you know. I had 2 different subjects, potential 4 different guests. They've all fallen through. And Eli, my normal co-host, just got a very important work call, and he is not here with me right now. So I am joined by Jeffrey Emmett, Unscripted Radio, and he's going to co-host with me. He does a lot of the talking. He's the one that actually made Debbie mad, even though I get all the negative credit for having her hang up. It was actually Jeffrey that made her mad, just for the record.
Well, she's an idiot, in my opinion.
I agree.
In my opinion.
No, she is, and that's really what I wanted to do the show on. When I saw this article in Disney, man, I got so red hot. I was by myself 2 nights ago in the shower yelling at Debbie in the shower. At Peggy in the shower. I was so mad. It was this great stream of consciousness, which had I been able to record would have been the greatest hour of radio, up there with Howard Beale losing it on the air when he talked about blowing his brains out. And my favorite movie, Network. I was just going off. This woman just is becoming my arch nemesis. But I can continue with that topic. However, the doctor who is in the big news story, he is a follower of mine on Twitter, and I don't, and he has agreed to do my show. He's not on today, so I felt like maybe it would be best to push that topic until I could get him and hopefully Peggy back. So who knows? Maybe we'll just go with it. It was an insane news story. I don't know if anyone found it, but anyway, Jeffrey, I know you've done my show a few times, and the last week we were talking about cyberbullying. And we are welcome to talk about that today. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do know that the show kind of ended abruptly last week. And did you get everything you wanted to say out?
I think it's just kind of insane, and we talked about it. We were going to do a show last night on it, and we had some technical difficulties, so we kind of had to bail at the last minute. We had an encore presentation. But over the course of the week, I've kind of rethought some things.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some things that I don't know if you even thought about because I didn't. You know, and I agreed with you that it's kind of crap. Like, turn your computer off, turn off your phone,
right.
and kind of move on. And then somebody said something to me. They're like, well, what about when it's all over Facebook, and then it starts the next day at school, and then it becomes live, you know, and it's now real-life bullying.
Yeah, I think that's a good
didn't really
question.
think of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and someone else, I think Marvin, one of my followers, had a good point about cyber stalking. Is that, is that real? And it did make me rethink it. I mean, we can talk about that. I'm happy to talk about that. I'm passionate about the subject, so let's go with that. What the hell? We're winging it today. So the guest call-in number, I will read that one this time and not the host number like I did last time. It's 323-417-6705. Please call in. And if you think the subject is tired and you want to talk about something else, call in and talk about something else. This is the rare time you'll have Jake Pentland, unscripted, on Unscripted Radio.
Will you give out sexual advice?
I give out sexual advice, yeah, but I'm probably the least qualified person to do so, considering I'm probably the worst lay in the history of human sex. But yeah, I could gladly give out sex advice.
Well, can I tell you what happened Thursday to us? Like, it was kind of traumatizing. You know, we've got Karen and Katrina, and they run all that in Power Rangers, and usually when somebody calls in, they'll say, I've got a question. It ends up being about one of the two shows. So this guy called in, he won the trivia contest, won Karen's autograph photo or whatnot. And he said, can I ask you guys a question? I'm like, here it comes. We're going to talk about Morphicon or, Morphin time. No, his question was, how do you handle when you're in a sexual situation and you fail to perform?
That's a very good question.
And then come to find out the kid was gay.
Was that why he failed to perform?
No, I don't think so. I think he said it was like one of his friends, and maybe I don't think he was kind of into him, and he was just wicked nervous. And, like, we all kind of stopped dead for a minute because we didn't know what to say. Like, we didn't know if he was for real or if he was just bullshitting. And, no, the kid was really wondering, like, what do you do when you can't perform? Has that ever happened to you?
Why don't I get calls like that? I would love calls like that. I never get – you're lucky. I got to steal some of your callers because I get crazy callers, but they usually don't really talk. They just stay on the listen line. Yeah, that has happened to me. I'm assuming we're talking about he had problems getting erect, yes?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
See, that's the other thing. Whenever I hear about problems performing, that could be a million things, So I hope that I'm going to go with the fact that he had trouble getting it up. And this can lead me into a small tirade because, not in a bad way, I'll just say this. I'm different than most gentlemen. Let's just say that. I have a different, what do you call it? I have a different approach to sex. I don't know if it's because I'm a Cancer or because I was raised by Jewish women or just my internal beliefs, but I have never been promiscuous. Honestly, between you and me, it makes me just sick to think about. I've had many different theories from people as to why I'm that way, as if there's some problem with it. I've had friends say, "Oh, you're insecure, freaked out," and the truth is, I'm not. I do joke about being a bad performer, but for the most part, my stuff works. I've had nothing but compliments. I do believe that I'm fairly decent when it comes happy time. But the idea of being naked and intimate and having sex with somebody who I don't know that well is the way my mind works. I attribute that with, this is horrible thing to say, but with people that go to the bathroom in public next to somebody. If you're at the stall next to a guy or someone's taking a horrible dump next to you, and it's a very intimate act the way I look at it. It's not something to be just callously approached or as if it's just eating cereal or another thing to do, which is what my generation, especially the women of my generation sort of are, and the men have always been that way, but it's just everybody's kind of got this callous approach like, oh, it's just sex. There's terms like casual sex, and it's always been bizarre to me. And I think a lot of the point I'm trying to get at is that this guy who called in and said he had sexual performance issues. I think a lot of people have performance issues they don't like to talk about because part of them is in a situation that is really intimate and uncomfortable, and it's with somebody they don't know, and the situation themselves is uncomfortable. And once you get uncomfortable in your mind, well, then your body will follow. So if you're in a sexual situation, you go, I don't know what it was. We were friends. It was weird. It's your body telling you you are not ready to embark on this act with this person. But nobody usually, for the most part, when they get those voices, everybody, as far as I understand, ignores that. they think, oh, that's just whatever, that's just a thought. But I really do think we are not meant to have, endless casual sex. Now, I'm not one of these weird Santorum dudes that's saying you got to wear aspirin between your knees and you shouldn't embark on physically encountering people. I don't judge it. There's a lot of people that do it. It's just something I honestly don't understand. And I think probably this guy that called into your show is like me. He doesn't really want to be in that situation. He's uncomfortable and he doesn't want to admit it, maybe.
I think you're kind of a girl.
That's what I've heard
you're
a lot.
Girly.
I am I don't like the term girly because, I'll tell you what, I don't mind.
It's a homo in you.
I don't mind being called girly. I'm not saying that. I think to call it girly is assuming that girls are that way, because if anyone's been paying attention to the world the last 15, 20 years, women are far more promiscuous than they ever have been. They're much more open about it. It's part of the post-feminist movement. It's like, hey, we're liberated. It's our bodies. The numbers are staggering if you ever look them up on STDs and HPV, and I mean they're at the point where they're being thrown around words with epidemic. There are girls younger, 12, 13, that are having anal sex to maintain their virginity, which I read reports about all throughout the week. Anybody that knows listens to the report. It's a crazy time for generations younger than me. I have a friend who's younger. Let's just say he has a younger brother, and his girlfriend, he's very faithful to her. She cheated on him, and not only did she cheat on him, but she did it on webcam with multiple partners, and she was probably about 14 or 15. In the old days, that was what porn stars did, but it's becoming more and more what our children are doing, and I don't think it's really a girly thing anymore. I think everybody is really oversexed. I really do. So I don't get offended by being called girly or homo. I just don't understand why people are so callous about something that is actually, there's nothing more intimate. I mean, really, when you think about it. And just one last thing, I'll let you talk. I hear a lot of girls and guys talking about sex. And I have this friend who's into like bondage and weird stuff, and him and his girlfriend would swing and they would have multiple sex partners. And I was talking to him about it, and I was like, that's so bizarre. Why would you share your woman with another man? I don't understand that. Like, maybe I'm just too alpha. I don't understand that. And he's like, well, you're uptight. You're an uptight American. He was Austrian. So he kept telling me I was uptight and these problems I had. And then he goes and lets it out that she can do whatever she wants, swings, multiple insertions, but she's not allowed to kiss the partner on the lips with her mouth. And he was serious. And if you talk to a lot of girls, younger girls, they'll say the same thing. It's this weird, bizarre thing where people go, well, kissing on the lips is too intimate. But shoving your pecker in somebody's anus or vagina is not. And this is a common thing. If you really go out there and pay attention, this is something that most people say. So I'm in that place. I come from that place where I think that is the most absurd, bizarre thing I've ever heard. And he got really angry. He said he would, to the point that my friend who's into bondage and all, he said he would beat the guy up if he kissed his girlfriend in the mouth. But he liked watching them have sex. So I think I'm probably actually more normal, because I do think the act of sex is the most intimate act you can do with another person besides murder. I think those are the two most intimate acts you can do with another person. And frankly, it kind of disgusts me that people are callous about it. Now, again, I'm not saying that a one-night stand, you're going to hell. I'm not saying that. There is nothing, what I'm saying, that is against casual sex for the most part. It's just I wish people would understand the intimacy involved. And then therefore, if you are going to have what quote-unquote casual sex, you still have to understand this is an intimate act with another person. So you have to protect yourself, obviously. And it's just a weird thing. I don't even know. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'm not the right person to talk about it because, I've always been a one-woman man. I've been, a monogamous guy. I've never cheated on a girl. I've never had a casual encounter. It's just not my style. It's just not. I guess it's homo. I'm a homo. What do you want? Wait a minute. How can you say it's homo? You homos, you guys are the ones that literally fuck all the time. You do drugs to stay up so you can fuck more.
No.
How is it homo?
Look, I didn't do that. But you're right. There is a lot of homosexuals. Like, I worked in a gay nightclub, so I saw a lot of shit. It's kind of nuts. But I think, I know for me, like, I felt the way you did in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like, to the point where I was so uncomfortable with having that level of intimacy, like, I just tried to avoid it.
Right.
And I just wasn't comfortable with it. Like, and to me, though, kissing was always very intimate. And then I started working at the club, and I started drinking a little more, and then I would make out with everybody.
Right.
I didn't sleep around a lot. Mm-hmm. I didn't sleep around as much as Mike, let me just say it. But love you, Michael.
Is Mike there? I see someone on hold.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, okay. He's going to have to chime in.
Yeah, he can say it. And totally, he'll know, too. He, does the kind of casual thing or whatever. But for me, like, I didn't do it so much, but then I kind of got to a frame of mind where sex was just sex, and it was about getting off. Like, it wasn't about having that intimate connection because I didn't care at that point.
Right.
I didn't want a relationship. I didn't want to be with somebody. But sometimes you just have physical needs you need to meet.
Right.
And I guess somewhere in there I turned into a dude and not so much a homo. But I don't know. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. I think somewhere along the lines, like, the morals that I was raised with have kind of gone to the wayside. And I'm like, you know what? It's just sex. It's not a big deal. But you can have sex with anybody. But to me, kissing is very intimate.
Well, again, to clarify, I'm not saying kissing is not intimate. I'm just saying it's not as intimate as penetration. Kissing is very intimate. Well, I know. It's fact. No, you're all crazy. It really is not nearly. It is not even close to intimate of an act. And I know a lot of people think I'm crazy, but just take a second and breathe and listen to what you're saying. It is absurd. It's absurd. A peck on the lips, even a little tongue, is nowhere near an intimate act as
Oh, no. I mean, like, when you're, like, passionate, like kissing, when you have passion.
See, that's the thing. I don't understand having sex without passion. That's the thing I don't get. Now,
you never had sex with somebody you didn't like?
No, never. Well, okay. You know, if I'm on air, I'm going to be honest. I had this girlfriend when I was 16, my first love. She called in. She's crazy. She's the one that called in on the AM radio.
I remember her.
Yeah, that crazy. Okay, well, she wasn't always crazy. Long story short, I also had a friend who was a girl who, I swore we were just friends, and that's why I know everyone's bullshitting when they say they're men and women can be friends. They cannot be friends. I'm sorry. I can prove it. I have this YouTube video I will gladly send you. It cannot happen. And I was in that spot where I was, stupid enough to think that I was bullshitting myself. Well, of course I was attracted to my friend who was a girl. Her name was Hillary, and she was also insane, although that's not part of the story. But anyway, long story short, I broke up with my girlfriend because I never did want to cheat. I knew where it was going, even though I was on some levels emotionally cheating. And I hooked up with Hillary. We had sex. I went over to her house and we had sex. And this was our girl. We had crazy sexual tension because we were friends, and it was like we're never going to go this way, which built it up even more. I mean, just imagine 2 years of dancing around the subject. There was a lot of passion. Yeah, and I get why people think that's exciting. Now, I'm going to tie this all in because at the time, it was exciting, and you're crazy, passionate to go over there. But part of me was going, this is all created. I'm creating this passion myself. I'm putting these filters and these stoppages on, so it's not like it's some magical, passionate, beautiful thing that's happening. This is direct decisions. I can't say that word. That I'm making are leading to this, and there's a point where I do, and I have seen it a million times, where people get lost in that. They'll start creating drama for makeup sex, so to speak, or they like the drama because they like the way that it makes them feel. It makes them feel alive and passionate. But the weird thing is, if you're manufacturing it, it's really kind of creepy. I mean, talk about masturbatory. And I see everyone does it. What's that?
They're making it up in their own heads.
Right. So anyway, I'm doing it, and we finally have the act, the culmination of all this passion, and I'm on top. I don't want to get too detailed because my sisters listen, and I creep out at the thought of me having sex, so I can only imagine how everyone else feels. And, I'm going at it, and I just look down at her, and I'm disgusted with her. I don't know what it was. I honestly don't know what it was. It was the actual act. I realized that I didn't have legitimate feelings for this person. It had been all manufactured up to the point. Now, most people at that point can continue to hump away, finish, and then they get the awkward walk of shame and all the weird stuff about casual sex that everybody who glorifies how great it is, really, if you get them down to the moment to talk about it, they tell you how horribly uncomfortable it can be. Well, I was at this moment. Now, of course, this was a friend of mine for years, so it wasn't just someone I picked up in a bar, but I had this moment where I realized I'm engaged in a very intimate act with this person that I really don't care for. It was all this illusion. And I can't explain to you how much that freaked me out. Now, I get called a homo all the time by my guy friends because I literally pulled out and I didn't finish, and we broke up, and I began the process of never talking to her again. I haven't talked to her really, honestly, since then. And the creepy thing about it was that realization that I'm using another person to fulfill some very basic needs, and I felt guilty about it. I felt like, what a disgusting, selfish thing for me, because here's a person that had developed feelings for me, and I really had just sort of created it, to manufacture more passion, quote unquote. And this is a person who got hurt because she really did have feelings, and all of a sudden we have sex and I run away, and you always hear stories about people hooking up and then the guy never calls. I think that's what's really going on underneath it, is that there's just this real creep factor that nobody likes to talk about, and I'm open about it. I think it's creepy. So.
Well, I get it. I mean, I've done it. Like, there was, in my like when I was going out and partying in like blackout mode, there was this guy. It was like the Coyote Ugly kind of situation.
Right.
Like, my friends were out. We'd always go out. We'd get blacked out, drunk together, and like we'd both make out with people, whatever. Well, apparently this one guy I kind of did some things on the dance floor with. My hands were just a-wandering.
Right.
And I didn't remember it in the morning until somebody called me, and I saw the kid's face in my head, and I've never been so ashamed of myself in my entire life.
Right.
Like, I really was truly offended that my judgment was that lapsed, which is a whole nother story. But this kid called me for weeks. It was those calls like, I don't know if you got my other 10 messages or if you lost my number.
Aw, that breaks my heart.
And I never called him. Ever.
Yeah.
And then he would message me. He found me on MySpace and Facebook. Well, I don't even know if Facebook was around, but I knew it was MySpace. I mean, he really liked me, and I'm like, dude, you knew me for 5 minutes at a club. And I couldn't understand, like in a lot of my lesbian friends, the minute they have sex, they form this attachment, which seems to be the opposite of what you're saying, though. So I find that kind of curious.
Well, there's a great joke. What do lesbians bring to the second date?
A U-Haul.
Say what? Yeah, U-Haul. And what do gay men bring to the second date?
Nothing, because we don't go.
Exactly. What second date? I mean, there is, women do get attached. There's all those archetypes about women sexually are more attached.
But I do know a lot of gay guys, though, that are like that. Have sex with somebody and they're moving in the next day.
My uncles, Ben and John, they've been together over 30 years. But of course, I don't know that they have only been with each other. But that's a whole other subject. But yeah, of course. I mean, there's different people. Some people are promiscuous, and some people like monogamy. There's a million different reasons why we're that way. The thing that I really don't understand and never have is how anyone would want to attribute sex with a feeling of uncomfortableness in any level, even if it's like, you don't like the person, like you said, hate sex is the best. I like sex. I love sex. I love sex with somebody that I love. I think that's the culmination of it. So why would I want to have sex that's different than that? That is, even if it's passionate, or mutual masturbation, in so many words that I've heard a lot of my friends who hook up all the time call it.
What?
Yeah, basically you're using each other to get off. It's purely physical. It's like monkeys. My mom says it best. Yeah. Sex is gross. Any monkey can do it, and I do kind of look at it that way. Like, sex in its very base form is like monkeys. It's just you get hard and your body goes and you just hump, and it's like it's gross and grunting and stinky. So, there's a million different ways to approach it. If you're married like I am, then you use it for, much different and deeper things, although sometimes it does get monkey. But I don't understand not wanting to go to that point, not wanting to be intimate with somebody that you love. I don't understand that. Like, that to me, that was the end game. That was I win. If I get a wife that I love and that I can have, the kind of sounds so gay, but if I can make love to my wife, what's better than that? Having 40, 50, 100 sexual partners who I'm creeped out and sneaking out of their house in the middle of the night? That sounds horrible.
Well, I don't think it's about different partners. I mean, I know for me, like, I think the thing that, how it did happen for me at all when it did happen was I would have to be drunk. Because at that point I didn't care, and I had the liquid courage behind me.
Right.
And it was physical.
That's what everyone says. They all have to get drunk and do it. And it's like, this is the basis of the cult of Jake. It works everywhere. It works in sex. It works in work. If you have to get drunk to do something, you probably shouldn't do it.
It's true.
Rule number one. That's the thing. Like, if I said, I'm kind of if your body's telling you you're uncomfortable, that kid that called you last week that was having problems because he probably didn't want to have sex with his friend because he had friend feelings for him, if your body's telling you not to do it and to be uncomfortable, then listen to your body. Listen to your mind. Don't do it. Now if you're going to have to get drunk or get awkward, it's like, why? What is the point? It's so messy and weird. I do not get it.
Well, for me it was just that I was not comfortable with sex. Like, I grew up in a house where it wasn't talked about.
Right.
We had the talk, but, like, that was it. You do not talk about sex with your friends. You just don't. It's just not something you do. And then when I went and worked at this nightclub, everybody kind of talked about their sex life. There was no secrets,
Right.
you know? It was very open, like, you know, so-and-so would call you and be like, hey, I was playing with myself earlier and I made it across the room. You know, and they're proud of it. And they, you know, so it was like a whole new culture for me. And I think that really opened me up to it. But at the same time, I still wasn't, I guess, really comfortable with myself. But when I drank, I became very, very sexual.
Of course.
Like, I became almost predatorish. Like, I'd be like, ooh. But then I would never really follow through because I really liked the chase. And then I would kind of be like, it's not fun anymore.
See, what you're talking about, most people will think, oh, he's living and he's understanding the relationships between men and women and sex is like passion or art. And they're all 99% of people are on your side here about this kind of feeling going in and the chase. And there is some sort of aspect to it that's very animalistic and people, you get off. I mean, I've had moments where, you know, I've been chasing someone. Like I said, my friend, the one that I told you about earlier, the fact that we couldn't hook up made me want to hook up with her more. It's like taking candy away from a kid. So those feelings were there. But I can honestly tell you, even then, even as a teenage boy with hormones going crazy, I knew it was manufactured and not real. Or at least that's maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is going to become the Let's Help Jake Hour because I was viewing those as manufactured drama, which to me is a sign that I am not evolved in any way, shape, or form, and that I'm acting really out of insecurities, that I'm acting out of some weird fear, and that I'm trying to cover it up with things. That's why I have to drink, or that's why I want to feel alive and feel passion from somebody. It's why women like the bad boy, quote unquote, who usually treats them like crap and beats them, but they keep going back, like Rihanna and Chris Brown. There is an archetype there. She probably is like, oh, I get him, I can fix him, there's a part of him that's sweet. And she has all this manufactured drama and baggage, which to her feels like love. But at the end of the day, we all know if you love somebody and they love you, you don't punch each other in the face. That's sort of rule number one. That was one of the vows when I got married. I will not punch you in the face. Not really, but I think that went without saying. And so many people get lost in this, and again, this is my opinion, but people like to feel alive, and they like these, what I used to call shots of life, like the same as when you take a shot of alcohol. And when this drama happens, so to speak, it makes you feel alive. It jolts your system. You're now feeling excitement, anticipation, passion, and all these things that are wonderful, wonderful things to feel. And I think it's almost a drug in itself, is what I really think. And I think a lot of people that want drama or casual sex partners and time to party, whatever. People are like, I'm a partier lifestyle, and they just always end up sad and spinsters, is because they're chasing more the feeling about what they think they're doing than actually focusing on what they should be doing. And to me, it's like, God, that's a maze, that's a rabbit hole. I never wanted to get in, because how do you get out of that? How do you walk into that maze of emotions, of passions, and get out of there? When at one point do you go, it's time for me to settle down, and you're able to settle down? It never happens. That's why so many people are in their mid-30s and 40s, and they're finally they're done. They've had multiple sex partners, they've partied, they've drunk, and they're like, now I want someone to sit on the couch with, and they can't find them, because all those years where they could have been working on themselves and making themselves an adequate partner in that kind of situation, they were out chasing the drug, the feeling of love, and then when it's time to come, they're not only not capable of loving, they're not capable of being loved. And again, when I was 16 and I felt that horrible feeling, I thought, man, fuck this. This is not for me. I'm not doing this ever again. I am going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to work internally on myself for years. I don't care if I never have sex again. I don't care if I'm staying in a dark room. And this happened. I ended up doing this for years. I was very good at video games. And all my friends were worried. But at the same time, I was using that time to think about what I could do to become a better person, because I always felt that if you worked on yourself and became the best part of yourself, well, then you'd be rewarded with somebody else who had done the same. And you could meet a partner who had spent those years working on themselves and not chasing the dream and the drug. And now you're two fairly put together adults. And that was my goal. I mean, that was my goal. People ask me when I'm 16 or 15 or even a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I always said married. And I always got these weird laughs. And like you said, you call me a homo and a gay dude. But That's what I wanted because, on my wedding day, still to this day, I look at my wedding day every day. It is the happiest day of my life. And not because I'm a chick, although there is part of that, because I met the person who is my equal. And I get to spend the rest of my life with that person, and I can't think of anything better. I mean, really. I could have, yes. My mother's a celebrity. I used to have hair. I could have used all sorts of power and leverage to, set records for casual sex if I wanted to. A lot of people go, my God, your mom's on TV. You could probably. Yeah, I could have. I had women throwing themselves at me all the time all those years. They were actresses wanting to get a part. I mean, geez, just think about the upbringing that I had and the ability to wrangle poontang, as the guys say it, which I never talk that way, but it's fun. I could have. I really could have. I could have done it. I really could have. I'm not a bad-looking guy, but it just disgusted me. So there you go. Maybe I am
what
gay.
Did your mother
am I
teach
gay?
You, though? No. Well, maybe a little bit. But it sounds like your mother or somebody in your life as a child distilled this in your head.
No. I mean...
It sounds like guinea guilt. Like the Italian families, like you're guilted, so you don't do the wrong thing. They guilt the hell out of you.
It's possible, but my parents were married. They divorced when I was 11, so I'd say my formative years I did see, a marriage. It had its ups and downs, so to speak, but the archetype built for me was marriage, so there's that. But there was never any guilt. And then, of course, my mom's been married 3 times. My dad's been married twice, so that's 5 marriages there. So you would think, actually growing up like that I would probably be turned off by marriage, as most of my generation is. I mean, when I was getting married and told my friends I was getting married, they all thought I was crazy. And if you talk to anyone about marriage today, if you listen to them, they'll tell you, why are you doing that? And they'll tell you the divorce statistic, 60%, in a divorce, or we're not meant to be together. And, to the point now where someone who's pro-marriage is considered weird. Like I am considered weird. I know people listening to the show think I'm a weirdo. Like you said, you called me a girl and a homo. I am the weird guy because I believe in marriage, which is so bizarre.
Just honesty. Because most men won't say that, and they won't just say, I have commitment issues. I'm afraid of getting hurt. So I push them away, and I have these random encounters so that I just feel good about myself when I have one night of it, and then I'm good for a little bit.
Exactly, and that's not just men. Women do that. In fact, women are dogs. The last thing I learned was, I grew up, if anything screwed me up, it was this. It was growing up, I talk about it all the time with mothers and sister, was that, men were dogs and men were worse and women were better, and they were, they lived their life, they used their emotions, and they didn't do, base animal things. So I always thought women were these, more enlightened species. And then here I am 15, 16 out in the dating world, and they're just as horny and stupid as we are. And that's, if you want to talk about where anger, that's one of the first cracks where I thought, wait a minute, I'm angry now because I was under the impression that you guys only cared about feelings. And so many guys that were raised the years I was raised, I was born in 1978, so I grew up in the self-esteem movement of the 80s and the post-feminist movement. And all us boys my age were told women want a sensitive guy with a sense of humor. We want a guy who's loyal. We want a guy who's sweet.
But then they don't.
No, they don't. They
want the bad guy.
That's the other half of the reason I didn't get laid. I mean, I can act like it was altruistic, but there's a huge part of it where no one would do it because I was sitting there like, hey, you want to hang out? Can I buy you dinner? And they're like, loser. You're such a wuss.
You know what? I think maybe I can get the girl side of this because I get that really, like the first couple of relationships I had were horrible, very unhealthy, very bad relationships. And it was because they were the bad boy.
Right.
And I really, really liked that. And then there was the sweet guy on the side who I could totally fall in love with and be with for the rest of my life. But I can't because I want to have the bad guy first. I want to have that thrill. I want to have that rush.
Isn't there a biological explanation as to what happens to the estrogen levels
Hold on.
when they're around a guy with a lot of testosterone?
Eli's here. I didn't even know you were here. When did you show up?
I just got here.
Oh, hello, Eli. Introduce yourself.
Oh, hey.
So, I'm sorry, what were you saying? What a nice surprise.
I just was saying, doesn't it do something to females from, I guess, a biological standpoint that when they're around a guy with a lot of testosterone, the badass, the guy who, blasts music, hardcore athlete, tattooed up, does it do something to the woman's estrogen levels as to, I guess sexually? And they kind of like, they might treat her poorly, she kind of is like turned on by it?
I can answer that. Yes, I don't know about the hormones, but I'll tell you this. The Cult of Jake, rule number 1 is when in doubt, always think how the cavemen lived, because that is what your brain is. We can all talk about all the fancy technology we have today, but we're still cavemen. And every doctor that's ever been on the show has agreed with me. The brain has not changed since the days when we were in the caves. So every emotion, every feeling you have is the same. It's based off that time, okay? So think about back in the day, back in the caveman days, when a woman could literally pick her partner. What is she going to want? She's going to want a powerful, strong alpha male, because when she's living in the cage and there's lions out in the woods, she's going to want a guy that can protect her. When the other tribes and hordes come in to behead everybody for religious practices, she's going to want her husband to fight them off. And she's going to be attracted to the biggest and strongest and fastest. And also he'll have the better gene to carry on through her kid. They're not going to be attracted to the sensitive, fat, Jewy, bald guy like myself who's sitting around going, hey, you want to watch When Harry Met Sally in the Cave? Not interested. And it totally makes sense. I totally understand it. It makes sense because no woman wants that. They say they do, and they told you when you're growing up, and I know, Eli, you and I are the same age practically, that's the kind of BS that was taught into our heads. They don't want that. They want that as a friend. And they really just want a guy as a friend. It's like a break glass in case of emergency. They just want a guy to listen to them. That's why a lot of women end up with gay guys as friends, and they go, oh, it's so much better. We can go shopping and talking, and he's a man, but we don't have to worry about all the wacky sex stuff. And he's, sitting there watching When Harry Met Sally with her. So the guy, the bad boy, nowadays, that tells women he's the badass alpha male who's going to protect me. And the reason that always fails is because the guy that acts like that nowadays, that wears the affliction T-shirts and has the faux hawk, he's a douchebag. That's the part women don't get. So they're attracted to what he appears, It's like the peacocking. He does the biggest dance, he looks the strongest, but he's a douche. So then they keep ending up chasing this bad boy because naturally they want to be attracted to that, and they are, but the guy's a douche. So that's why that cycle continues, which, again, is why you should work on yourself before you enter any kind of relationship. And you won't attract douches. Like attracts like. So Rihanna and Chris Brown, they're perfect for each other. Everyone always wants to get mad at him, and he's a douche. He punched her in the face, but she keeps taking him back. She's just as guilty. Whitney and Bobby Brown, same thing. Everyone's so celebrity. Bobby Christina. Yeah. So here's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, here's this sweet woman. She's attracted to the bad boy, and he takes advantage. No, it's her fault. If my wife, who I love to death, if a man, she was with a man and punched her in the face, not only would she never be with him again, he'd probably end up dead. She'd probably stab him in the middle of the night. That's why she's got a husband who doesn't beat her.
What is it about that? You mentioned Rihanna and that beat her down Chris Brown guy. What is it about Chris Brown or women who are willing to put up with that crap? What is that all about? I mean, can you explain as to why she would feel more inclined to get back together with beat her down Chris Brown?
Did you see the picture of his dick?
Yeah, there you go.
But she could find other males to fulfill that craving she must have. Because
she likes to be punched. I'm going to say no. I'm serious. Bring it on. Bring it on, ladies. I know what's coming, but you know what?
Oh, Lord.
She likes to be. Well, how can you? Let me ask you this. How can you say she doesn't like to be punched?
Because she's stupid and she's in love and it's blind.
No, not blind. It's not love. There's no. If someone's like I said before, if somebody's punching you in the face, love is not part of the equation.
Okay, wait. Maybe let me rephrase this, because I've had a lot of friends that have gone through this. They create what they feel is the fighting, and then the makeup is passion. Like in their head, instead of it being like the way we're looking at it, like you're a moron. Why are you saying you like getting punched? In their head, it's passion.
Right.
Maybe not necessarily being punched, but it's what comes after that. I'm sorry, I love you. It's okay, punch me in the
face. Does she have any German in her?
But hold on, Jeffrey. What you're saying is it's semantics. That means she likes to be punched.
You can put it. I'm just saying.
But that's what it is. That's the thing I'm so sick of when I lost it in the shower the other day. I'm so sick of everybody going out of their way to put things in a nice way because it's not nice. Here's a woman who's being repeatedly punched in the face, and nobody has the balls to tell her to get out. None of her friends are. Everybody's questioning it. Someone should tell her, what is wrong with you, Rihanna? Why do you like to get punched in the face? I tweeted her yesterday when she tweeted some song about, I love the way you touch me. And I go, well, yeah, who doesn't like getting punched in the face? That was my Twitter yesterday to her. Because she's so effing retarded. She's weak and retarded. Why can't we tell the truth about these things? Why do we have to protect this moron's feelings? She can choose. She's an adult. She can get out of this relationship anytime she wants to. She doesn't want to get out of it. She likes to be punched. It's just deductive. Eli's evil laugh is making it sound worse.
Sorry.
But again, let me put it this way. If she didn't want to be punched, would she get back together with beat him down Chris Brown? Let me ask you that question. Put it that way. Jeffrey.
Wait, what? If she didn't get back together with him?
If she didn't like to be punched, why would she get back together with him? Because if she really had a problem with getting punched in the face, she wouldn't be.
I don't know. You know, like, this is something I'd love to actually spend, like, 2 hours on. Because I have a lot of friends that go through this shit, and I don't understand why they stay. Like, I just think it's stupidity, and they're just afraid to be alone, and it's something comfortable, and it's something they know. So, it's okay, let me take this chance. It'll change this time. Exactly.
Hence liking to be punched, because what it comes from is a real deep insecurity. You don't feel you're good enough. So you find somebody to reinforce that. It's simple psychology. I should have a psychology on call all the time, because they always agree with me.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It's I had 3 ready to go that canceled, but here's
I know.
the deal. You feel crappy about yourself, Jeffrey, right? And Eli, you don't feel good about yourself, and then here comes a partner, that you're attracted to, who tells you you're beautiful and loves you, and really does. You're gonna get bored. You're gonna go, ugh.
Well, yeah. Who wants that? I don't want some guy that's gonna pawn all over me. That's boring. It's not a good time. Hello? Oh, goodness. Well, that's Eli, are you there?
Hello? Yeah, I'm here.
We lost Jake. We lost him for a minute.
Yeah, he it looks like he's gone. Maybe
his
realized
wife
what he
accidentally
said.
punched him.
Yeah, but he loves it, and he likes to get punched, so that proves his point, doesn't it?
I think he probably likes to punch the kitty, too. I mean, it's just... You really picked a great time.
But in
to
all
call
seriousness, Jeffrey, it's really sad. I mean, you have this beautiful, talented singer who, has broken it off with this guy, and she's passionate about him. But I feel like that's kind of her rational thinking was overcome by her passion,
which
is unfortunate.
Sorry, I'm back. Did you guys know I got disconnected?
Yeah, we figured it out.
Yeah, we just realized that.
I don't know what I missed, but this is one thing the Cult of Jake has got to put down: the word passion. I have as much problem with that as I do with the term bullying. It's one of those things where everybody, whatever their agenda, whether it's Peggy Howland or Fat Association or whatever, they take words and they change the meaning. Passion in itself does not correlate or connote any sort of dysfunction. It just means complete fearless affinity for. I should look up the actual definition before I talk about it. But to say that she wants passion for Chris Brown, it's not passion, because passion it's another word. It's dysfunction.
Yeah, we get this, but the problem is they don't.
Because she is really insecure and she's screwed up. Somebody her whole life must have told her she wasn't good enough. When I say she likes to be punched, I'm not saying she's a weakling, hideous person, because there is always hope for people. But if she's not willing to do some self-discovery and build up self-esteem and her self-confidence, she's going to end up in these relationships. And at a certain point, when you're an adult, which she is now, you have to start asking the question, this person keeps bringing this on themselves. Surely they want this to continue. Because we've all been faced. Jeffrey, you called and you were so honest and awesome about your drinking when we had Peggy on the air. And you had said it like this: there was a point that came when you looked at yourself and you realized you were on a path of self-destruction. And you did the necessary things to change it. So I would argue you actually do love yourself. You want to get better. You're not better innately than a Rihanna. You're just as human as the rest of us. But when you were faced with it, you thought, what can I do to overcome this? The ugly, messy, hideous stuff. That's a sign of somebody who's not liking to be punched.
Well, no, because if you punch me, I'm going to run your ass over with my car. Like, there's none of this. Like, and I don't understand it. And I think it's just hard for a lot of people, to realize, like, this is my problem. It's you have to admit you have a problem before anything, whether you go to that meeting or not. It doesn't matter what it is, whether you're getting beat, you're on drugs, you're drinking, you're a sex addict, you're fat. You have to admit there's a problem. and that it's your problem, and you got yourself here, and you have to stop blaming everybody else.
Yes.
You know? Like, I'm sorry. If you keep going back into an abusive relationship, I've had friends, I've beat my head against the wall trying to save them. Like, come stay with me, you can live with me, I don't care, I'll help you raise your kids, get out of this relationship. I can't do anything about it because they're just not ready to admit the fact that I'm worth more.
Right.
It's
so,
sad.
like I said, they don't feel good about themselves for whatever reason. And
no, they don't.
There is a point where, this is something I always struggle with running the Cult of Jake, is there's a point where I have feel such sadness for these people. Even when we had Peggy Howell on, like the first half hour, it's like my heart breaks for these people, and myself too. Anyone with dysfunction, you feel sorry because you think, someone along the way or something happened that threw them off course, and they're lost, and you have this unconditional love for people, and you want people to overcome, and you want to help people, but there's a point where you have to also accept the fact that they're adults who can't be helped, that they've given up, and you can't save people. It's like my sensei said to me in martial arts class, said it best. He's like, I can only show you the way. You have to do the work afterwards. So, I can't save you from the ocean. I can only throw you a life raft. So there's a point where I can see somebody is not going to change. It's too scary, or it's too much uncomfortable work for them to overcome it. And then at that point, you have to cut those people out of your life because they're dangerous. This is somebody who, when faced with the ugly truth that they had to do some hard work on themselves or continue the self-destructive behavior, they choose the self-destructive behavior. They're, in so many words, they're saying, I want to die. I want this to end. And you don't want people like that in your circle, because if they can't take care of themselves, if they don't value their own life, what makes you think they're going to value yours?
Right.
And it becomes a very lonely place, because you're here as a person saying, well, look, and I preach it every effing week to the point where I'm blue in the face, which is, go to therapy, talk about it, face the ugly. Yeah, it's ugly. You've been abused. I have such empathy for you. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to at some point do something about it. You're going to have to face it. You're going to have to work on it. And sometimes I'll get through, and sometimes somebody will say, yeah, you're right, and you'll see their life saved. And it's magical. And so many other times you'll see people go, nah, fuck it, I'm going to get back with Chris Brown. And what do you do? What do you do as a person that ultimately has love for your fellow human? What do you do? I struggle with it every day. I don't know. Some days I'm, I feel like my narcissism is out of control. I feel like I'm Jesus here to save everybody. And the next day I just can't stand anyone. And I want to punch everyone in the face, and they drive me crazy. And I go back and forth. And when I do this show, when I have someone like Peggy Howell on, sometimes I want to go, look, you fat pig, quit eating. Quit eating and exercise. But the other half is like, here's a person who's so twisted up and lost, they can't even face it, who, in her mind, it has nothing to do with what she's eating, who's going to shut down nice, Eli. Who's going to shut down a Disney exhibit because it's bullying, because the Disney's trying to tell people, don't sit on your fat ass and eat candy all day. And she sees that as bullying. At what point can I get mad at this person?
Well, it just shows that she's a fucking moron.
Well, there you say.
Bitch, they're not trying to bully fat people. They're trying to help children from becoming a fat ass like you, who thinks at 62 you're healthy as a horse. Bitch, you're the size of a horse, and your parents fed you so much as a fucking baby. So stop trying to get people to go join the fat wagon and fucking get a clue, you dumb broad. I say that with love.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Well, then there you go. You said it for me. So, okay, then to Peggy, if you're listening, you shut down. We got 10 minutes left. We can talk about this briefly. I am going to do a show on this Disney exhibit with the doctor, but we can talk about it for 10 minutes. There is an exhibit called Habit Heroes at the Epcot Center, and what it was an interactive exhibit for children to play along. It's a male trainer named Will Power and a female trainer named, what's her name? Calisthenics. And basically, they go and they have this character who's, I can't remember his name, Big Lead Bottom is his name. He's a big fat couch potato. Okay, it's this guy sits on his ass all day. He's 400 pounds and he watches television. So you have to, as a kid, you see this fat guy and you have to help him work out. And then there's like these digital hot dogs that fly across the screen, and you shoot them with celery sticks. And it's teaching kids, hey, you need to exercise and eat well and you won't be fat. Okay? That's all they were doing. And anyone that ever grew up on Disney like I have, we've all grown up. Disney has all been our third parent. Every good thing I do, most of it's because I saw it in a Disney movie, if I'm honest with myself. I could screw people over way worse, but I saw it in a Disney movie. It's not right to do. Disney has been a great example for our kids. And I think this is a great exhibit because obesity and children's obesity we hear every week is an epidemic now, and kids are fatter than ever. I went to Universal Studios last week. There was a 5-year-old in a wheelchair who was easily 100 pounds.
What?
Yeah, and there's no glandular disorder. His parents and him, they're not taking responsibility. You have this whole generation of parents that think it's bullying to tell their kid, no, you can't eat this, so I want you to like me and be friends so you can eat whatever you want. And then the kid's 100 pounds and is going to die of a heart attack before he's 12, and that's bad parenting. So here comes this Epcot Center thing, and Peggy Howell, our friend at Peggy Howell, this is national news, wrote a letter to Disney and got the exhibit suspended because it was bullying and drawing into bad stereotypes of fat people. So here we have a nation where our kids are dealing with childhood obesity, which those two words together, even 20 years ago, were an oxymoron of sorts. Now it's become the norm. And here is Disney trying to make an exhibit so kids understand, hey, if you stuff your fat face with hot dogs, you might get fat. Go exercise and eat vegetables. And our parents, the ones that made these kids fat, because these kids didn't make themselves fat. It was all you screwed up parents out there, like Peggy. When this exhibit came, what did you do? You called it bullying. You said it's mean to tell kids that eating too much and sitting your fat ass on the couch is going to make you fat. That's mean.
That's so irresponsible for her. Like, I hope somebody like Jake, let's go get lawyers and sue her. Because to me, that is one of the most irresponsible things that I've ever heard. And the fact that Disney would close down that attraction blows my mind. Like, what are you doing?
They don't want to lose money. Obviously, it's a capitalistic country we live in.
From fat people, they can't go on the rides anyways. Look, I can say I am fat, okay?
Right.
Peggy kissed my ass. Bitch, I'm fat. Go look at my Facebook photos.
Right.
Like, it's just the way it is. You can't ride rides. So why are they worried about fat people not coming? Oh,
no, they're worried about fat
the food
kids
budget.
having their feelings hurt. But let me tell you something.
Oh,
The
Lord.
doctor that I almost had on today would have been a great show had he gotten better cell reception. He was quoted as saying that, God, I mean, I don't want to slam the guy because I wanted to call in, but let me just read you this quote he said in regard. This is the doctor I have. This is a direct quote. Because after all, kids with obesity are obviously just gluttonous and lazy, and they probably lie around and eat junk food all day, right? Well, that's what Disney thinks. Okay.
What?
This is a doctor.
What?
Who's saying that Disney is incorrect in thinking that eating too much and not exercising, making you fat, is misguided to believe that. This is the world we live in. This is why I do cyberbullying and talk about this stuff. It's not bullying to tell a fat kid to work out and eat vegetables. It's actually the most loving, kind thing you can do. To tell a kid, you're beautiful just how you are, and he's 900 pounds and has a heart attack watching SpongeBob, to tell him he's beautiful is disgraceful. You're killing that kid, and he's going to die. Here you go. I'm going to call it like it is. These fat kids, these obese kids that we're hearing about, they're going to die. They're not going to make it past their teen years. They are going to die. Not figuratively, literally going to die because you don't want to hurt their feelings. This self-esteem, fucking overprotective bullshit where we want to worry about our kids getting their feelings hurt to the point where we'll kill them to protect their feelings is so absurd to me. This school shooting last week, I had one of my followers on Twitter saying, we should teach no hate at schools, as if the kid went on a shooting rampage because there's a hate 101 class at his school where they teach you to hate people. What school teaches kids to hate people? There's no pro-hate agenda out there. And simply saying to kids, don't hate each other, while we make you fat and don't give a shit about you, but you're supposed to work it out in your schoolyard, and we're going to be all outrightiously indignant and protect your feelings. Meanwhile, we're stuffing Twinkies one hand over another into your fat little mouths, and we're shooting down anyone that tries to tell you to go on a diet and exercise as a bully. How are these kids' minds not fucking exploded? How do these kids not look up to their parents and go, "You're killing me, you fucking psycho"? And now you're worried about my feelings? How about you worry about my actual heart and lungs and body? Let's worry about my feelings after the fact. Why don't you stop making me 900 pounds, and I guarantee you bullying won't be an issue. I'm getting bullied at school because I'm 500 pounds.
That's right.
That's why they're getting bullied, parents. Your kids are getting bullied because they suck. They're fat or they're losers. I'm sorry, no normal kid gets bullied. No confident kid gets bullied. And I get in so many fights over this. But here I am telling you, you know what, parents? Why don't you teach your kid self-respect? Why don't you teach him confidence? And he will learn, and she will learn on her own how to take care of herself, and you don't have to worry about bullying. But you're going to stuff food in their face? You're going to protect their feelings to the point where they're so cowardly they can't even have any confrontation with anybody who disagrees with them, who's going to cry when they get bullied, and you and the teachers are going to get together and protect their feelings first, so these kids have narcissistic levels of belief in what their world is? And you think those kids are going to turn out okay? You think our future's set? You think our economy and our politics is going to work when these people grow up? These fat little narcissistic shits? Who, if you tell them the truth, they're going to cry. You think America's in good hands? It drives me fucking berserk. And I'll tell you one last thing. Self-esteem. My producer, Vince, my good friend, said to me last week. He asked me, "What's the first word in self-esteem?" And I said, "Self." And he looked at me and goes, "You're right. It comes from within. Self-esteem cannot be taught." And that's why this self-esteem movement, this anti-bullying campaign, these fat little kids and Disney being shut down and everybody worrying about feelings, that's why it's not working. That's why it's not working. Because you can't inject self-esteem. By very nature and definition of self-esteem, it comes from within. Teach a man to fish. We all know that saying. So, if you really want to develop a kid's self-esteem, you don't praise something crappy they do. You tell them it's crappy, so they work harder and get better. Then they get actual praise for something good they did. Then they get self-esteem. Just merely hearing you're a sweet, beautiful little kid while you're 900 pounds and a little shit who cries when you get shot in a video game and demands repercussions to the person playing against you, you don't get self-esteem from that. Our kids are so fucked over by you people, by you horrible, horrible parents. You fucked your kids up so bad. And I know your intentions were good to protect their feelings, but now you've not protected anything else. You haven't protected them and taught them how to protect themselves. All you've done is shielded them from anxiety, but made them so much more anxious and depressed. And then when they come back to you and say, "I'm depressed," then you put them on drugs. Drugs that make you depressed. Drugs that make you homicidal. Drugs that make you go to your school and shoot people in the face. This self-esteem movement, this whole movement, this, casual, everything, it's all connected. You cannot teach self-esteem. And our children out there need to be praised when they do something well, and when they don't do something, they need to hear it, realistically. And there's nothing wrong with Disney saying, "Hey, sitting on your couch and eating saturated fat is going to make you fat." That's not bullying. That's fucking truth. That is reality. You psychotic, hideous parents. Thank you. What's the over-under and how many followers I lost today, Jeffrey? I was at 3,000 before the show. What do you think we're at, about 300?
I can look right now.
Yeah, let's look. Anyway, sorry I didn't let you talk too much. For winging it, not being prepared, I thought we dodged a bullet. Hopefully
You're
we can
genius.
do this. What's that?
It's all because of that caller from our show on Thursday, that kid.
Oh, I thought we couldn't talk about that.
No. The caller with the sexual experience, it all stemmed from him.
Yeah.
Calling it about his sex life.
You call him for me and tell him, you know what? When you have problems performing, it's because the person you're with, you're not supposed to have sex with them. That's what it means. If your sex partner makes you so anxious and neurotic that you can't even get a hard on, you shouldn't be with them. Look at Eli on the sound effects. You got better this week. Last week you had a little work to do. But anyway, that's the end of the show, everybody. All 300 followers that are left. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Right. Bye. You going to play some music?